another huge thing I will say that we've done to gain that trust is that we do a ton of pre-production and we lay everything out for people. Like we as artists know what we see in our head and we can kind of visualize it, but other people, sometimes these leaders, they don't get it. So we
Hmm.
really want to make sure that we're, giving pitch decks with like a treatment and then maybe even a pre-visualization with an iPhone kind of movie to
Yeah.
make sure that we get that buy-in.
Hey, welcome to the Higher Ed Storytelling University podcast, a show where we bring together Marcom leaders from both inside and outside higher ed to give you fresh perspectives on successful organic content creation and strategy in higher education. My name is John Azoni. I'm the founder at Unveiled, a video production company working specifically with colleges on their storytelling and commercial video content. You can learn more about our work at unveiled.tv. That's UNVEILD. And if creating content that resonates emotionally with your audience is a priority for you, then you need to be subscribed to the Higher Ed Storytellers Digest. It's my weekly newsletter where we cover a lot of ground about content creation and strategy in higher ed. So sign up for that for free at unveiled.tv/newsletter. All right, let's get on with the show. My guest today is Randolph Infinger. Randolph is a Nashville-based video producer and director with a love for conceptual storytelling and all things music. He currently serves as the senior video producer at Vanderbilt University. Randolph, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. How are you?
I am doing good. I'm excited to talk to you. I know when we had a great conversation in our pre-call, and I don't know that I've had another video producer on the podcast. So
Well, I'm glad to be here. I love talking video and I love thinking about video, especially like, from our side of the world where it's like, the artist side and also like the more like leadership side and the conceptual side. So yeah.
yeah, for sure. For our listeners, we're going to steer the conversation towards like what would be relevant, I think, for marketing directors and, Marcom leaders. And we might get into a little bit of, video bro chat. But you can always fast forward. I'm sure people fast forward through my episodes frequently anyways.
That's,
All right. So what's something that people would be surprised to know about you?
so actually, I guess something that's kind of interesting is I didn't start being a video producer at all. I didn't really like I didn't want to do video, I would say at first, and I kind of fell in love with it actually from doing digital marketing. And a company actually asked me, a record label here in Nashville is like, "Do you know how to make lyric videos?" And I said, "Sure." And so that kind of like jump started my transition from digital marketing into actually like producing videos for myself, which is yeah something I love to do. And also I really married it. Something people should know about me and maybe don't is that I love live music. And I'm always going to concerts. I always take a camera, and that's yeah kind of married those two loves together, and that's where I started.
So in Nashville, are you in a band or were in a band or anything like that?
I've been in a lot of what I would just call garage bands, where it's just like me and some guys, and we're like, maybe we'll get a gig over here, and we might play one or two shows a year, but yeah, nothing super serious. But I do love to play. I play guitar. Grew up as a jazz guitarist, actually. That was my first kind of love, I guess.
Oh, cool. Good deal. I'm really into jazz and I mean I don't know much about it, but like if I'm like cooking or something or just like around the house on a Sunday, I'll have Alexa play a happy jazz playlist. And I
Same.
just love like just hearing, people noodling on, jazz riffs, and it's just something about that just literally does like boost my mood.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's what I do when I'm like, especially like a creative rut where I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll just go and noodle on my guitar, and it's the best little like outlet. And yeah, love jazz.
Yeah, one of my clients, our whole sort of look and tone is for the music is like this sort of upbeat jazz music, and I don't have any other client that like that, but they were like, no, we want this to be the feel. Like it's kind of academic, but it's also kind of like, you know,
Kind of fun, right?
upbeat
Like,
personality,
yeah.
and ever since then I've been like, I love editing with jazz music. It's just like I love editing their stuff because
I would
it's
agree.
like I'm happy, man.
I think we have the same thing. Not to get too down this rabbit hole, but yeah, we have a client too that loves jazz for their clients, and it just makes so much sense. It's so cool and like it's kind of elegant in a way too, you know. So it kind of gives off like an elegance as well as like fun and happy. So yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a good. I know higher ed loves symphony music. I
love
think,
strings. Yes.
so I think it's a good, veering off of that path. One of my pet peeves as a videographer is like a video that's like not dramatic at all, like in the messaging, but like a
Hmm.
really dramatic, like
The
uh
violin is going
like
crazy.
Waterworld, Kevin Costner sort of
Yeah.
song underneath.
Yeah.
And that drives me nuts. But anyway, so tell me about Vanderbilt and how your team is structured. Just give us a little lay of the land.
Yeah, yeah. So as a visual media department, we have our visual media director, John. He's great. We have a project manager that kind of, makes sure that we're all able to do our jobs to the best ability. And then in that group, there are four videographers and one photographer, which is great because I'm sure you know universities have so much going on all the time. So our in-house team is constantly doing work. And that's just the visual media team because our entire creative team, which is even larger, we might be as much as I think 50 people now, but that is content, so people who are writing stories. We have what is it, social media, which is obviously huge for distributing our videos. We have design, we have the whole gambit that we work with on this team. But as a visual media team, we're pretty locked in with our core, about five or six of us.
Okay, cool. That's a pretty good amount of people. So
Mhm.
do you manage like all the video folks, or are you like one of a couple video producers, or?
Yeah, I'm one of a few. So we all honestly, we John is kind of our visual media director is kind of like our overseer, I guess you could say, like he would be our supervisor, our manager. And
Yeah.
then all of us are basically kind of like video producers, video managers. It's very loose in kind of that sense. And it's really nice because we all work on different stuff, but also the same kind of stuff. So we're always, helping out on different projects, but also kind of doing our own projects and different departments. So it works out really well for us, I think. And even with having a huge creative team and like all like four videographers sounds like a lot, we still are like always relying on freelancers and just any kind of help from students to continue to like, make more videos.
Are requests from other departments coming through you guys, and you guys are sort of triaging projects?
They do. So we do like we'll get to this I think later, but we use Rike as like a project management platform. And so basically we'll have partners across the university and they can submit requests, but we're very, we don't take every request. We want to make sure that we're in line with our entire creative team, with like the Vanderbilt brand. So basically in that sense, we will, take a request, and if we say yes, we'll work on it. We'll help, conceptualize it, pre-production, all of the stuff. But if we don't, we offer, like a huge list of Vanderbilt, or excuse me, trusted freelancers that we've worked with throughout the year. So yeah, that's our general process.
So what kind of projects does your team typically prioritize?
We prioritize, I would say, we work on a little bit of everything, is what I was going to actually say before you say prioritize. But for priority size, we really want to make sure that we're in line with like our big campaigns. So, like the Dare to Grow campaign is like the huge marketing kind of donor campaign we currently have. And that's really fun because we can get super visual with that. We've done a lot of great videos with Dare to Grow. We also prioritize, anything that represents our brand, anything that is like very important that will go on social and be very front facing. We definitely prioritize those. I think things that we, try that we still want to do a good job of, but we kind of like let freelancers handle are like events. So a lot of people want like event recaps. Event recaps are great, but that's probably not the highest priority
Yeah.
for a lot of us and they don't always perform the best. So yeah, I think the big stories, the things that really hit and get feelings going are what we want to tell. So,
Right.
or prioritize, that is.
Yeah, that's good. And I just pulled up your LinkedIn here. You guys won an Emmy
Yes, we
for.
actually won two.
All right. So, and you mentioned the Dare to Grow. It was a PSA. So tell me about that project.
Yeah, so the one that I specifically kind of directed and edited was the 2023, I believe it was, Dare to Grow PSA. That was an awesome project to work on because basically each year we get one institutional spot that's called the PSA, and it's basically a commercial that we are able to put onto like our football games, our basketball games, like as a free kind of like spot, a promotional spot. And so we make this every year, and I got the task to make it in 2023. And it was great because I got to go from like the inception of like the idea of what if we did this project with Enrique Bradfield, the baseball player, to the final execution and like seeing it play on TV.
Hmm.
So that was awesome. So yeah, very difficult to say the least to make a 30-second like really well done commercial completely in house.
Yeah,
But
it's tough. It's I mean, that commercial approach is very storyboarded, and then I feel like sometimes documentary stuff is easier, and I find storyboarded stuff can be kind of a beast. I used to be part of a church, and the pastor's wife reached out to me and was like, "Hey, can we do this like, you know, 2 minute like storyboarded thing like real quick?" And I'm like, actually, like if we're doing like a storyboarded thing, that's like probably the more complicated way, because like she
yeah,
wanted like a mom like with like kids in the car like coming from hockey practice, and so I'm like, okay, where are we gonna get the hockey equipment, where are we gonna get the mom, where where are we
we're
gonna
gonna get
get.
the car.
Yeah,
Like
you
all
have
the
to.
things.
Nothing is ready made, you have to like make everything from scratch. So yeah, I totally feel that 30 seconds, people think that I'll just grab some students and film them walking her through campus, but mm-mm.
No, it is not that simple. And I mean, I think that's probably some of the things that we have the toughest part doing, or like the logistics. Like that shoot, I think was like it's a lot of different scenes. So it was I want to say like 10 different scenes, and to schedule students in their, crazy social lives, and they have classes all the time, and then to get leadership involved, it's a lot, so, to say the least. The
Yeah,
shooting is like the easy part once you're there. It's just like getting them there. So
yeah, the scheduling is a beast, and I found we recently we're working on some faculty stories for one university, and we usually do student and alumni stories, but the template that we had for scheduling students just did not fit the
yeah.
faculty at all, and it just like learned, it was like such a splash of cold water of like, okay, faculty is like a whole different beast. So we just shot this thing. We had a crew down in Ohio shooting this yesterday, and the scheduling for that was all me, and it was just like so hard to get. Like, we're like, okay, go to this end of campus and catch like 20 minutes of b-roll with this professor, and then get to the other end of campus for 30
Yeah.
minute interview. And it's like, it's crazy when you get faculty involved, but
They have crazy, crazy schedules, and very often they'll come into our studio and they'll say, "Hey, we have 5 minutes," and I'm gone. And it's like, "Okay, well, we got 5 minutes. Let's go." So
yeah.
it can be kind of fun, and it's also incredibly stressful sometimes. So just depending on the day.
Yeah, sometimes those constraints are can be helpful.
Yeah.
Student and alumni success stories. You want to be doing more videos like this, showcasing outcomes from your student and alumni, but you're not. Why? Well, you probably know it's one of the most effective ways of communicating your school's value to prospective students, according to just about any Marcom leader you ask, or like fancy infographic you look at. But until now, you didn't know that it could be easy. You might have visions of the logistical nightmare of coordinating video shoot after video shoot and managing the firestorm of emails, trying to align everyone's schedules and all that. But what if all you had to do was find the stories to tell and hand them off, and then compelling videos just magically appear in your inbox? Here's how our storytelling subscriptions work. We're going to batch film a year's worth of student alumni stories. Could be faculty stories, any kind of like human story, over the course of a handful of days of production. And then every month, drip out one of those stories plus a whole package of additional videos repurposed from that month's story to fill your content calendar with across the entire year. When it's all said and done, you're going to have 132 polished branded videos. And here's the icing on the cake. We're going to give you all of that B-roll and raw interview footage. So you can use that however you want at no additional charge, like, trust me, a lot of other production companies would likely charge you extra for. So learn more at unveiled.tv. And if you want to talk more in detail, you can book a call with me, John, right there on our website. Okay, back to the show. I know one of the things that seems to be true about Vanderbilt is leadership really embracing storytelling, and I know that's not the case for every institution. I hear a lot of Marcom leaders that wish like they know the kind of storytelling that they would like to be doing, but like they just can't get the buy-in to do it. So like tell me what's different at Vanderbilt that
I think the biggest thing that we do is we look at numbers and like what's really hitting. We'll even do focus groups. Like we want to make sure that we are constantly raising the bar and showing that, Vanderbilt raises the bar and our video production goes with that. And I mean, storytelling is just something that we've had to gain trust over time with, right? Like it definitely has not been like that forever, but we've done a ton of great work, year over year. We've won Emmys, we've won like, different UPAA awards, and it's just really kind of it's gaining that trust is, what needs to happen with Marcom leaders, and I think we're really lucky that we're in that position. Another huge thing I will say that we've done to gain that trust is that we do a ton of pre-production and we lay everything out for people. Like we as artists know what we see in our head and we can kind of visualize it, but other people, sometimes these leaders, they don't get it. So we
mm-hmm.
really want to make sure that we're, giving pitch decks with like a treatment, and then maybe even a pre-visualization with an iPhone kind of movie to
Yeah.
make sure that we get that buy-in.
When you say pre-visualization with an iPhone, are you like literally like recording just like a scratch like
Yeah.
storyboard?
To help people understand, we've done this recently we did something in our bell tower where someone, was like, what do you mean you're gonna like see the bell tower gong? And so we went up. It was crazy. First of all, we were in like the 1897 bell tower of Vanderbilt, but we made like a short video, obviously not super edited, of like what it would look like just with our phone really quickly, just to get them an idea. And that kind of helped spark oh, I get it now, kind of like
Yeah.
I can see the vision, go for it.
One of the best, like, those masterclass
Hmm.
things. So there was, I've watched it twice now. There's one with the two creative directors that run the ad agency that did the Got Milk campaign.
Cool.
And they talk a lot about, I mean, it's like more like agency, like creative concepting type stuff. But one of the things he said was like, he makes everybody that submits an ad, because they do a lot of Super Bowl ads, and that's like their
Hmm.
thing. He's like, if you submit an ad, you got to draw the storyboard out, and like you just stick figures, whatever, and then literally film with your iPhone the storyboard and say the lines that you envision. He's like, because you're gonna see that you think it's 30 seconds, but it's actually 50 seconds, and
Yeah.
so now you have to edit this thing. So I just thought that was like a really interesting way to communicate a vision, just like stick figures and then actually make the video in this very
Yeah.
rudimentary way, and you can kind of see, does this actually story make sense, does the story make sense, is
Hmm.
it the length that it needs to be? But yeah, that's a great idea. How much do you guys use, if at all, like AI for any storyboarding? Have you ever like played around with like trying to generate AI
Yeah.
clips?
I think that's like, maybe one of the good AI is a weird subject for artists, I think. And I think ways that we can use it as a tool are, becoming really kind of fruitful. And I think, yeah, that's a great way to do it. And we've actually done it recently where we needed like a building that hadn't even been built in the background of somewhere. And so to visualize that, we used AI. I think before AI, we would just do like stick figures and stuff. And this helps us kind of take it to like that next level. So yeah, I think people should use AI for storyboarding, and I think I'm going to more in the future, probably too.
Yeah, I've played around with some of the video stuff. Runway ML, that one couldn't get anything usable out of that. I tried Sora, and honestly, like I thought, with all the hype around Sora, I thought it was going to be worlds better than Runway, but it was like the same.
Yeah.
It
The
was
video
like,
AI stuff's not quite there. It seems like the photo stuff is great, and I feel like I had so much luck like getting what I need out of those. But yeah, the video has got some ways to go.
yeah, but I like the potential.
Yeah.
I'd love to get, and again, I mean, yeah, it's a touchy subject for artists, but I just don't see a world where we're firing the video team because of AI. Like,
No, me neither.
I
I
just
highly
like,
doubt it.
someone's got to someone has to know how to use this. It's not like because, Quicken was invented that we just fired the accounting team.
Exactly. It's just
you
a
know,
tool. It's
yeah.
somebody's still got to use the tool. So I think if anything, it's like good to embrace it and be like, okay, well, how can I learn to add this to my workflow now instead of like, rejecting it as if it's like the internet or digital cameras or something coming to be. So
Yeah, but it'd be great if you could actually start to like build scenes, like backgrounds, like based on your buildings, and
hmm
then have students, interacting within the scenes. But you
that
know,
would be cool. Yeah, I've
yeah.
not seen that. I have seen really quickly one interesting thing is I don't know if you've seen this like LED light walls or like LED. So basically, we went to a studio in Nashville where it's this huge room filled with like LEDs and some sort of video board basically, and they use Unreal Engine to create scenes. And so they created a Vanderbilt scene for us, and we're like, here you go, here's Vanderbilt, and it was pretty wild to see. That could be a huge future too, but
Yeah,
crazy.
that's crazy. Yeah, so talk about, this is gear focused as I think we'll get, but talk about the gear that you guys have invested in. And I want to spin this in a way that's relevant for the audience, because I think that we're just coming off an episode that just launched a couple weeks ago, was about in-house versus outsourcing
hmm
videography. And one of the things to consider is gear. We think like, well, if we hire someone in-house, then it's a $70,000 salary, and that's where the costs end. but
Not at all.
but I want to hear from you guys, like, what does it take just on an equipment level to do things at the level that you guys are producing them at?
Yeah, from a very kind of like layman's basic level, I'm very much of the mindset that like the gear does not make the videographer, right? Like I think you can use kind of whatever's at your disposal to
Mhm.
create what you need. But that being said, I do think it's incredibly important to have good glass and shoot with decent lights. We use aperture lights because pretty they're very good. They're not like, the best of the best, but they get the job done. I
Yeah.
don't think like your camera body is the biggest issue. Like we're still delivering a ton of content in HD. Don't need to worry so much about 4K. We do like to shoot in 4K. But yeah, I think I would say if you were starting off in-house and you needed something, obviously you need a camera, buy decent glass that can be versatile
When you
and
say
lights.
glass, you mean lenses.
I'm sorry, yeah, I'm using too many lenses, and it doesn't have to be, the fastest 2.0 lens. I think kit lenses from Sony are still really versatile and good. But yeah, I think that's the two things I would say is your glass and lighting is a huge thing. I don't think that I could do what I do without proper lighting. So,
Yeah, definitely. There's a difference between, I mean, you see work coming out of in-house teams, and you can kind of just immediately tell the level that they're operating under, because and
mhm.
it really has to do with the lighting.
And
I mean,
audio. I'm
audio
sorry.
too. Yeah.
Audio is, I forgot. I think sometimes the first thing I notice in videos that are underproduced is the audio. I think lighting, as a cinematographer, I love thinking about and looking at lighting, but yeah, audio too. You could shoot with an iPhone and have great audio and be fine. But
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, that's highly underestimated how important the audio is. And I agree. Like, the number one thing that will make me, well, there's probably other things, but like, but like, what immediately turns me off about
yeah.
a lo-fi video is terrible
Mhm.
audio. And so,
You can
and
tell it's like the onboard video, like it was just captured on the camera in that little tiny, super
yeah,
small video thing. Yeah.
yeah. Always got to have a microphone near people's mouths in
I
some,
even
and
tell people like, we do a lot of Zoom calls where we'll record Zoom calls. Just use your iPhone, Apple AirPod or your earbuds. They have that little microphone. Like even that's better sometimes than
yeah,
nothing. So
absolutely. I think that people don't think about lighting as much too. Is it's that like, okay, let's just turn some lights on,
mhm. Yeah,
and that's like one thing that I look for, like when I'm vetting freelancers and like crews and stuff. I'm like, that's like the thing that immediately I'm like, did they light this or not? And if they
right.
didn't, then I'm like immediately out. Like, if you think it's okay to like not light something, not light an interview and just put someone
Yeah.
under like an overhead light, that's just an indicator of quality that I can't risk.
Yeah, and I think even someone in the audience would be able to like obviously as videographers or video producers we see that, but even the person viewing would be like, ugh, I think turned off. And that's the thing is I think there's a lot of videographers I see that do so well with natural light, but lighting scenes is a completely different story, and it is very
Yeah,
important and just takes practice. So
for sure. It does. So talk about like your post-production workflow too, because that's a whole other beast that I think schools should be aware of. And I honestly didn't talk about this, I don't think at all. In I should have talked about this in the episode about in-house versus outsourcing, but the
Yeah.
entire IT workflow of a video production, like in-house video production suite, it's a whole thing. I mean, like I used to work at a production company and we were constantly trying to figure out how to open up bottlenecks that were just causing like really slow
Hmm.
computer operations. I mean, it's all this techie stuff and like servers and backup drives and systems and things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
How have you guys managed to navigate that? What does your post workflow look like?
So for post workflow, I will say you mentioned servers. Like if we didn't have the current server we have right now, which is I think it's through Facilis, and we use Iconic to like find things in there. But if we didn't have that, we would be just not able to do the level of work we do, I think, because everything we do goes in there. Everything is logged. We keep melts in there of like our highlights, the best of what we have. It's just generally where everything lives. We also, for post production, like after we're done shooting, everything is categorized and tracked in Rike, which is our project management platform. And so there we can see, okay, we're done with the production of this. We're going to move this now into our post production column. And so from there, we kind of have like basically a list of tasks that need to happen. So obviously, the editing has to happen, then it has to go through approvals. After it goes through approvals, it has to go through a copy editing approval to make sure that the captions are correct. After that, we make sure to get all of the stuff uploaded. It's a ton of steps, but we have it all kind of laid out so that even if someone joined us as a videographer tomorrow, they would be able to go in and look at our project management and say, okay, I've got to do this, 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 and this. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is having that centralized server because we all pull from the same kind of clips. We all need what each other shoots. And if we didn't have access to that, we would just not be able to do our work.
Yeah. And I think that's the way that in-house should be done. And it seems like you guys are really firing on all cylinders with, because like honestly, like if I'm like a huge advocate for build an in-house team. I mean, it's like it's
Yeah.
great. I mean, if you can afford it and you're gonna do it right.
It's definitely not easy, but it's like we are basically an in-house production company. Like
Yeah.
whether that's for photo, video, or design, we're kind of like an agency within the university almost. It's really, really like a great system that we've gotten into now.
So what are some of your favorite videos that you worked on? Maybe we talked a little about the Dare to Grow PSA. What are some others that have come up for you?
Another favorite one actually I just did, this was this past October, was I got to do a documentary on Jeff Coffin, he is the saxophone player for the Dave Matthews Band, and he also is a professor at Blair as a jazz professor. And so obviously, as we heard earlier, I'm a huge jazz nerd.
Hmm.
So he has played in a ton of bands that I love, including Dave Matthews Band. He played in Bella Fleck and the Flecktones. So we did a profile on him for him being inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And so while I didn't get to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it was just, I mean, it was so cool to like, follow him around to local venues in Nashville and, film his sets, get to talk with him and his bandmates, also see him do his thing with students at Vanderbilt. Like, I mean, that's like the dream, honestly, as a video producer is to get to shoot something you love and also create a great story and like, hit all the goals for the university at the same time.
Yeah. So he teaches at Vanderbilt?
He does. He teaches a jazz. I want to say he teaches a jazz performance class, but I'd have to get back to you on that. We have some great B-roll of him. It's not like Whiplash. If you've ever seen Whiplash, not
Oh yeah.
quite like that. He's a
Seen it
really
twice.
yeah. He's a great guy. He's not throwing cymbals at anybody's heads. So
I'm actually not, contrary to popular belief, I'm not a movie guy. And
yeah, me neither.
Whiplash is one of the few movies I've seen more than once.
It takes a lot for me to get like my claim to fame. Maybe I should have said something that people don't know about me is I've never seen all the original Star Wars and I don't really care to. Like
Me either.
I'm not a movie person, but I love video. That sounds weird,
Yeah.
but it's just who I am.
People ask me like, "What's your favorite movie?" And I'm like, I don't know, but that Gabby Petito documentary, like on,
Yeah.
on Netflix, was pretty
Have
fascinating.
you seen Hero Dreams of Sushi? Because that was really good. Or this
Yeah,
random YouTube video. Like, I don't know.
yes,
I love
yeah,
the gambit of video that doesn't necessarily have to be like artsy cinema. So
yeah, for sure. So what's your opinion on what makes a good story? How do you guys think about how do you guide storytelling from a creative perspective at Vandy?
Storytelling is not easy. I think you know that very well, but we really, just want to make viewers feel all the emotions and really like we don't want to tell people what they should be feeling when they're watching our videos, but we want to really drive emotion. So I think a good place to start is like we try to figure out like is there like a conflict or like a hook that really makes this story something interesting, and how can we look to kind of portray that and show that. I think a really good example I wish I had sent to you earlier was we have a new school at Vanderbilt called the Roberts Academy for Dyslexia,
Mm,
and we actually went to the people who gave the gift to start this academy. We went to their farm and did a little documentary on, why they wanted to do this, why they wanted to start this school. And I mean, by the end of it, everyone watching it was in tears. I mean, these people are so passionate about dyslexia and helping others. And the visuals matching with that story are just like, it just drives that feeling of just, you know, something you can't even describe. So I
yeah.
think yeah, storytelling is hard though. You don't always have the best story to tell, and you have to figure out like a good hook for it. But yeah,
Yeah, and I say, I beat the storytelling drum a lot and, starting with a good story and a conflict and all this stuff. But like sometimes it's a good message to have someone that's just like, here's this thing and I liked it,
right, right,
like it doesn't always have to be like this really deep story. That's why I really encourage schools to collect stories and like start a story collection initiative, because I think when you wait to till you need stories to go out and find them, you're probably going to get very surface level ones that get submitted
right.
to you. But when you are constantly have your ear to the ground and are having people submit, stories, then your team's going to get excited and like get chills around certain ones that come up, and it's like, yes, let's go after that one.
100%.
um,
We often have like a brainstorm meeting once a month, and we rely on our Marcom partners to bring us those stories. And it is so cool when you get like did you hear that so and so was doing, a project about weighing squirrels? And you're like, wait, what? They're gonna weigh squirrels with like peanuts on the lawn? It's like, yeah, it's an engineering project, and like, stuff like that just pops up from our partners, and it's like, okay, wait, we got to figure out how to get a story out on this. So
yeah,
yeah, that's another interesting thing is that universities are huge. How do you find those cool stories? You have to lean on others,
for
definitely.
sure. Yeah, we just finished casting for an engineering school, and one of the stories that, because we have a whole system where we give our clients like an email, like a series of email copy that they can send out and adjust however they need to, and then there's like a link, and then people submit a video of themselves telling their story, so it just becomes this kind of big database of collecting these video submissions. One of them that came through was this girl that she had graduated. She had a bachelor's in some completely unrelated field and had an idea for an app for some problem that she wanted to solve. And then something about COVID and like funding got taken away. And so she had to figure out, she was basically like, well, I'm going to go to this engineering master's program and just figure out how to be a software engineer, and she graduated and built the app herself. I'm like, those are the stories that are just like that are just gold. When and then someone might not be, a department head or something might not be thinking about that, like that might just not be top of mind. If you're to ask someone on a random day, put them on the spot, they might just think like, oh, who's getting good grades or something, like,
That's so true. Yeah. No, that's super interesting though.
So you mentioned Reich for departments to submit stuff. What other tools do you guys have in place that's been crucial for your workflow?
Yeah, so we have Reich obviously as project management. We use Facilis as our video, like I guess you'd call that a MAM, a media asset manager. And then we have a
Okay.
DAM, a digital asset manager that is houses all of our photos. It archives, basically any kind of digital assets, mostly for photos though. Those are huge for gathering content. And then also one piece of software that I love to tell other creatives about, especially video creatives. I think a lot of them probably use this, but Milanote is something that we use constantly for storyboarding, for pre-production, shot lists, kind of gathering ideas. It just is like a really great visually perfect kind of app to use for storyboarding. Um,
Millinote. I'll look this
yeah,
up.
Millinote is great. I actually found it. There's a YouTuber I love. His name is Danny Gervitz on YouTube. He does really great stuff. And yeah, he had like an ad for it, and I was like, I'll try it out, and I ended up loving it. So we
Oh
use
yeah,
that.
I see how this could be cool for storyboarding.
It's great, and you can use it for just any kind of like, creative kind of project management kind of thing. Because Reich is great, but it's very left-brained, right? So Millinote allows me to kind of visually take all of everything in Reich and be like, okay, well, how am I going to make this shot list? How are we going to lay out the shots? And I can add notes anywhere. So those are all crucial things. And we use Adobe Suite for editing. So
Okay, got it. Cool. So for project management, do you use Rike for, or do you have like
yes.
something separate?
Yeah, Reich is our project management. It's where we can have people request stuff, and we also do all of our proofing in there. So any kind of reviews or approvals go through Reich.
Cool. So talk about having a centralized. I imagine you guys have a centralized B-roll library. Like,
Mhm.
do you guys manage other departments accessing that, or is it pretty much just you guys accessing it and kind of repurposing that content?
Yeah, it's mostly us accessing it and repurposing that content. We're kind of the main video people on campus. However, some colleges do have their own videographers, albeit probably not as like production status as us. However, we do keep the centralized B-roll on our Facilla server, mostly of melts. So, 2 to 3 minute highlights of the best of campus, drone of campus, students interacting on campus, classrooms, labs, anything that is kind of general that people might need. We get requests all the time to use stuff like that. We'll keep that in our central kind of melts folder on Facilis and send that out to people that need it.
So melt, I've never heard that term. That's just kind of like a selects, like just like the best
Yeah.
of the best kind of thing.
I don't know where I think I picked up on that term from the sports guys at Vanderbilt. We have a separate video team that does sports. But yeah, a melt is just like it's a melt of all the footage. So think about, like, yeah, if you shoot a football game, you only want the best shots and the
Right.
best like highlights. So you put all of that together, and then in an instant someone can just take that. They don't know if they don't know how to color anything, they don't know how to edit anything, they have the good clip to be able to use.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys shoot in? This is a technical question. Do you guys shoot in log for that
We do.
reason?
Yep,
Okay.
we shoot and log 95% of the time, I would say.
And then you color everything before it gets to.
Most of the time, almost always, unless people specifically ask for it. Because we're a little bit different in that maybe like a private corporation wouldn't give out raw footage, but being a university, we're a little bit more open with our footage, and we will give you, or like we'll give our partners at the university raws. But a lot of times they come back and they're like, we don't know how to use this.
Yeah.
So we just color it and give them the best of the best so they don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, for people listening, if you ever get clips from a videographer and they're like really washed out and desaturated, that's on purpose. That's just how it looks coming out of the camera, and then you got to
Mhm.
actually process it. That's why sometimes it's an extra step in managing a B-roll library is, a centralized B-roll library is processing that stuff so that it's usable for other people.
Exactly. And it's not a huge deal to process it for us, but yeah, definitely an extra step.
So what would you want, marketing communications leaders to know about working with in-house teams? I've heard the gamut of, people who love their jobs and then people who are very disillusioned or whatever the word is with working in-house video in higher ed, just being overloaded with work, people not understanding storytelling, not having any strategy for marketing and just making random video requests and stuff like that. So like what do Marcom leaders need to know about bringing video in house in terms of like what you need to do your job well?
Definitely. I think it all starts with trust. I think like I need to be trusted to do this job, and I think it starts there. And then also, I think it also starts with strategy. Like we have to have a strategy, have goals going into a project. Like I think the way in my head, if it was perfect every single time, is that a Marcom leader would come to me and say, "We have a problem," and I would say, "Okay, we're going to find you a creative solution." And give me everything, give me a creative brief, give me everything you can about the project, and we will find that creative solution and bring it back to you. We will work with you. It's so much about to communication. I think a lot of times people just want to request a video and say, get this done for me. And they don't think about like the different steps we need to take about securing students, securing props. There's a million steps to take, and it's very collaborative. So yeah, definitely need a strategy, need to trust us, and work with us. Let's talk. Let's be communicative and don't just hand it off.
Right. I hear that from time to time too, that like other departments need to understand that you need to slow down, and
Definitely.
there's decisions that need to be made if they want the quality that they're expecting, or to have it be done on time or whatever else. It's not as simple as just like, yeah, just grab your camera and show up. They don't think about
Right.
like who's going to be in the video, how are you going to get them there,
Mhm.
if they're
Who are
going to
we trying
be.
to target with this video? I mean, that's another thing we think about, like the audience, like students, parents, alumni. Like those are three different groups that we completely change our tone for depending on who we're talking to. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. All right, man, this has been great having you on. Love talking
it was
about
awesome.
the video stuff with you. Where can people see you guys work at and connect with you at?
Yeah, so you can find all of my work on my website at rand.media. I also would implore everybody to subscribe to the Vanderbilt University YouTube channel. Feel free to check us out there, as well as all of the Vanderbilt University socials. We do a lot of social videos too that are not quite as produced as a lot of the stuff that I do. So check us out.
All right, I'm going to subscribe.
Please
You
do.
have one extra subscriber today.
If I did anything today, I got one subscriber on my YouTube channel. That growth coming in.
There we go. One at a time. All right, man. Appreciate having you on.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for talking.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. 3 things I want to invite you to before you go. Number 1, if you want to know what's working right now in higher ed video, like what videos are getting tons of views, likes, comments, all that, you can get ungated access to our report, aptly named What's Working in Higher Ed Video, a comprehensive guide for higher ed Marcom leaders and content creators. So check it out at unveiled.tv/higher ed video, and you might want to bookmark it because it's designed to be a resource for you that you can keep referring back to for inspiration. Number 2, reminder to sign up for my free newsletter all about content creation and strategy at unveiled.tv/newsletter. And number 3, follow me on LinkedIn. If you're searching for me, my name is John Azoni. It's spelled Johnazoni. I'm on there all day, every day, for better or for worse, posting regular content and engaging with folks like you. So I'd love to connect with you on there. And with that, we'll catch you on the next episode of the Higher Ed Storytelling University podcast. And as always, I am cheering you on. Okay, bye.